everyone to Rendezvous with Sandeep Aggarwal. I'm Crystal and I work in Droom in the PR and Communications department, and I welcome all of you all to a very exciting session with Sandeep. Sandeep Aggarwal has founded Shopclues and Droom, and I think that is all. He needs no more introduction. He went on to build and grow both these companies to unicorns, and he's a man who dons many hats. Apart from building unicorns, he's also an angel investor, he's a philanthropist, he's a mentor and an inspiration to me and many in the country. Rendezvous with Sandeep Aggarwal is a quarterly event which has received tremendous response from the startup fraternity. It is a live chat session where Sandeep interacts with the audience and answers all your queries on topical subjects. Today he is here to address a very important subject: how to build and survive in a challenging funding environment. Before we start, I would like to add that we are going live on Droom's Facebook, Instagram and YouTube channel. Everybody who has joined us live, please type in and send in all your questions because he is here to answer them all. We also have sent a Zoom link to campuses who we very regularly interact with. All the participants who have joined us on Zoom are requested to please raise your hand so that we can unmute you and you can ask your questions live to Sandeep. And lastly, before I hand over to Sandeep, we have a very exciting catch for all of you all. The first 10 lucky participants to ask questions to Sandeep live are going to win this signed copy of Sandeep's autobiography, Fall Again, Rise Again. So without any further delay, I would like to call the man himself, Mr. Sandeep Aggarwal.
Hi guys, this is Sandeep Aggarwal. Very nice to meet all of you. Thank you for showering your love and showing great enthusiasm for this live event. We have been doing this event for almost 9 years now. I came to start Shopclues from Silicon Valley in 2011, and since then we have created a lot of venues to interact with budding entrepreneurs, to student community, to existing entrepreneurs and the entire startup community, so that we can share our views and various topics relevant. So today is a very relevant topic. We all are very much aware of and feel the heat on a daily basis in terms of how challenging is the funding environment, especially India did receive record amount of funding in 2019 until 2021. So we'll go through that topic. I will probably address that topic for 10-12 minutes, and then, as Crystal mentioned, the idea of this format is to take as many questions from all of you as possible. And so you can type your question on Facebook, Instagram or YouTube page of Droom. And if you are in one of the colleges or university who received the Zoom link, you can actually, rather than typing, can raise your hand and someone will unmute you and you can ask the questions. Because I would like to try to take questions from everyone, or as many questions as possible in a given time. Please try to ask one questions and avoid multiple string questions. So with that, just wanted to share with you that India is absolutely going through a renaissance of technological revolution and democratization of entrepreneurship. Never ever in independent India we saw an opportunity where someone coming from a typical middle class family background with not necessarily having access to capital, or even now not even based out of one of the metros, can create a world-class product and service, right? All this has created a phenomenal rise in India's startup ecosystem, which is thriving and growing very rapidly. And so with that, a lot of entrepreneurs are completing their dreams and creating a lot of employment, creating a lot of homegrown startups, and a lot of time products and services which are from India for the world. All this obviously require utmost level of passion, energy, enthusiasm, high level of conviction, and ability to deal with ambiguity, withstand with any failures, right? And so all that is part and parcel. But one important ingredient of achieving your entrepreneurial dream and making an impact is capital, right? Unlike prior industries from industrial revolution until internet, you still needed a sizable amount of land, lot of capital, plant, machinery, thousands of people before you can see a first rupee of revenue. Obviously, since internet became public in 1994, the cost of doing business has dramatically come down, and it continues to come down. Now we talk about chat GPT, a lot of other things where things are no longer happening in weeks or months. They can happen in maybe days and hours, and sometimes maybe in minutes. So the cost of doing business will continue to come down, but you still need a lot of capital, because new age businesses are disrupting most of the time something which has already been done before, but you are trying to do that cheaper, faster, better. And these businesses create value if you create a scale which human being has not seen in that category before, at a speed which is unheard of, and you grow 5 to 10 times faster than the country's GDP growth or the industry which you are disrupting. And on the way, you absolutely, especially as the funding become more challenging, is you always stay truthful for unit economics and path to profitability. So that is how this ecosystem continues to grow. And just wanted to share with you that when I have somehow, while I have raised, the two companies I founded have raised close to $600 million in 17 round of capital. And I would like to share with you my personal experiences that the funding, some people call it right now funding winter, some call it very challenging environment, but I think somehow for me, it always existed, especially during my journey with Droom. But when I started Droom, I was in between Droom and Shop Clues, which was on its way to become a unicorn, and it became actually fourth unicorn in India. But I had a personal crisis where I had to deal with a personal crisis of highest magnitude. And while I was at that time one of the rare entrepreneur, who founded a unicorn, because today also it is a rarity whether we may challenge the valuation and the fourth market and so on, but reality is India has created 120 unicorns, and whether they stay at unicorn level, go up to decacorn or go down, but it is still an achievement to achieve that number. Does not matter how you achieved and how people are currently judging you, right? So I created the fourth unicorn in India, making me one of the 4 Indians to create a unicorn in a new age style. But when I was starting Droom, in spite of such a proven track record, I had a personal crisis where if I requested 100 investors to meet me, all 100 met me, but 90 would never write a check, and it was nothing to do with Droom's vision or strategy or my passion and energy, but it was a personal crisis which mattered to them due to the nature of the crisis. And I have been very vocal and have never hidden my personal crisis, which you can find out Google search, etc. But God was kind, and I was, just to maybe for someone who has not heard about it quickly, uh, I was indicted by Department of Justice, uh, and I was sued by Security Exchange Commission for charges, allegations of insider trading for my role as an analyst, something I did before starting ShopClues and in US, in terms of my role as an analyst, and that really impacted my life for 7 years. And but as they say, it's better to be late than never. Department of Justice did drop and dismiss all charges against me, and I had a customary civil settlement with Security Exchange Commission. But because that case was pending for 7 years, in spite of our delivering $1 billion company, 9 of the 10 investors, in spite of liking my passion, energy, my track record, and the Droom vision and strategy, would stay away. So from that perspective, I would say I have always experienced a challenging funding environment. On my way to building Droom to a unicorn, I can tell you hundreds of stories where my achievement or the Droom's achievement or our team achievement could easily fetch us 50, 100, $200 million. But people who write that level of check, most of them were very sensitive to my pending legal case. So as they say, necessity is a mother of invention. I had to still build a company larger than life with the limited resources we got. So by the time Droom became unicorn, we had spent only $90 million. And I also wanted to share with you, by the time ShopClues became unicorn, we had spent only $70 million. So one thing which I'm very, very proud of is that the two companies I built as a $1 billion company both spent less than $100 million to reach $1 billion. And it is mentioned, the first, especially ShopClues, is also mentioned in the Morgan Stanley report. So we were not one of those unicorns which raised 200 to 400 million from VC, and lifetime they raised maybe 6 to 800 million, and that's become $1 billion. Right? We truly created a very scalable, disruptive, and technology-oriented businesses. So why I'm sharing this is really to basically pick up some few things from my own journey as an entrepreneur and share with you that there's indeed a funding winter. But if you are solving real life problem, if you are frugal, if you are unit economic centric, if whatever you do is not asset heavy and it is technology oriented, you will prevail, right? But if you are touching something which has physical infrastructure or physical retailing, it is people heavy, you have high exposure to working capital or capex, you either need to have huge amount of capital, or you need to have a very low burn rate, or maybe you need to be profitable. Otherwise, absolutely, the funding winter is very severe, and there's no light, near-term light in terms of end of the tunnel. And especially if you're a mid-stage and late-stage company, I'm sure you may be feeling the heat. And then when the funding environment becomes tight, typically you see 4 things. Number 1, you see a massive decline in people who choose to become entrepreneur. As you know, in 2019 to 2021, disproportionately higher number of people left their extremely rewarding jobs to be an entrepreneur. And I do a lot of angel investing, and I'm seeing a big decline in that. This is one of the signs of challenging funding environment. Second is, if you have budgeted that will take you 3 to 5 months to raise capital, it might take you 2 times more time to raise the capital. And then whatever capital you want to raise to deploy in building products, technology, services, operations, channels, and business development and marketing, you may not get as much capital as for the same stage company got, let's say, in the last 3 years. one more thing happens is that whatever valuation you think you deserve, or it's complete benchmark with a similar company at some other era or time, that may no longer happen. So please budget all these things in mind. So if you want to take if you want to take jump into the entrepreneurial bandwagon, know that even the first round of funding may be a little bit more challenging. Although early stage, it's a great time, by the way, in my view, to build an early stage company, but cannot be dependent too much on external capital. Second is, know for sure that if you're looking for 2 million, you may get half million. If you're looking for 10 million, you may get 3 million. Third is, it will take you a very long time to raise capital, and finally valuation will not be good, right? So these are the reality, and these are the realities, and also, a lot of this is not because your pitch has shortcoming, India is looking less attractive, or new age sectors were bubble and it has busted. It has a lot to do with global macro concerns such as war in Ukraine and Russia, interest rate getting revised very frequently in Western world, high inflation, all those things are causing the funding environment becoming very tight. I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, but I have seen at least 4 cycles in my 26 years of career. Out of that, major portion was actually spent in Silicon Valley. India, it is very difficult to find cycles because we have very, very bubblish and very, very robust, high growth, emerging economy type of situation. So you don't notice if something corrects. But in US, I have seen a lot of these cycles. Major one would be .com bust, then the 2008 financial meltdown, and now the inflation, Omicron, COVID, and war, political uncertainty led big correction in the capital market in last 13 months. So these cycles are there. You should not. So there are a few things I wanted to share before I take questions. You should not take any of these things personally. As I mentioned, it's a great time to build. Obviously, because of the tighter funding environment, or even in general, it is better to be frugal, measure everything, be truthful for unit economics and path to profitability, and you have a higher responsibility to assume for these things. And to 2-3 things more, I will say that if you are struggling and feeling the heat, please know that you are not the only one. Everyone is struggling in their own means and manners. Remember, the tough time never lasts, but tough people do. Another thing I wanted to highlight, that during these times, it's very difficult to keep your best case scenario dream intact. So if you had a dream, again, I know if you talk about that I'm building unicorn, people laugh, or I build a unicorn, people laugh. And this is a cycle, right? This is not like that the world will never produce unicorn in future, right? Or we will not go back ever to what it was in from 2011 until 2021. But these are the cycles, right? So, but the biggest thing one can do is never lose grip or sight from your biggest dream or your biggest aspiration, right? So if you want to create the category leader, if you want to be in 50 countries, if you want to have a SaaS company and say ARR of 50 million or 100 million, or if you say even for value, a unicorn or a $10 billion company, never lose sight of that, and every day remind yourself that I am on my way to achieving my biggest dream, while the current time may be challenging, right? And finally, on valuation side, one thing I would say, if you want to build unicorn or $5 billion company or a $10 billion company, build based on value, not valuation, right? So, and the difference between two would be, during a serious FOMO by investor, you are valued $1 billion or $5 billion or $10 billion is one thing, but based on fundamentals of future cash flow and your own competitive moats or your disruption, total addressable opportunity, and your economics of growth, is resulting into you being valued at 1 billion, 5 billion, 10 billion is what I meant by value more than valuation. So that is what all I have. We will soon start taking questions, and I'll just repeat one more time. If you want to ask question, you can ask question on Droom's handle at Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. And if you are one of those educational institutes who received a Zoom link from us, you can raise your hand. Our team will be posting the questions sent by you in a text on our social media handles here, right, a screen in front of me. Please try to include your name and the city or the institution if you want to include, and if you want to be discreet, that's fine too. And with that, I will take our first question. So our first question comes from Anmol from New Delhi, and he's asking this question via Facebook. Questions is, what are the factors that lead to this funding winter? So Anmol, very very relevant question given what has been going through. So thing is, if you look at the history of Western economies, typically they don't do well if there's a high inflation, or they don't do well when the interest rate is high. And these things are also connected in a way. When you have high inflation, then you must increase interest rate to lower the inflation. And when you increase the interest rates, the cost of capital become higher. When the cost of capital become higher, the barometer or the hurdle rate to evaluate a business become tighter, right? And if you are a financial enthusiast, there's various ways how you can do valuation of a business. Like if you buy real estate, it could be per square feet, per yard, or per acre. Same way companies are valued based on multiple of revenue, multiple of profit, multiple of EBITDA, right? And one of the methodologies is discounted cash flow, which is basically calculating the net present value of future cash flow of any asset or a company. So when the cost of capital goes up, you must use now higher cost of capital as a denominator to create a net present value, and pure arithmetically the businesses look less attractive. When business look less attractive, IPO become lesser, right? For example, Droom we filed our IPO in November 2021. We went all the way, did lot of activities, but eventually had to pull down our IPO because market had become very lackluster, right? Second thing is M&A activities come down. Investors who probably had access to 100 million also took 900 million more in loan and built a book of 1 billion, and now they give that money for investment with high interest rate. They don't want to take 9 times loan from their equity. They probably want to take 3 times or 4 times because they may not be able to even repay the interest on the loan. All these cause capital scarcity, right? And then because of discounted cash flow and how you value the assets, they come down. And when they come down, the funding environment become very tight, right? And when funding environment become very tight, the pressure of showing path to profitability or a very compelling unit economics become high. When you do traditional businesses, if I'm running a doctor clinic or a chartered accountant office, architect, or a lawyer, or even traditional businesses, I think I would be profitable from day one or first 1 month. But in new age businesses, we have tendency to create very large scale followed by profitability. And in a high cost of capital, funding environment, private sector not doing well, M&A activities come down, that is not good enough for investors. And that is what causing the funding winter. And we hope as many companies improve fundamentally, inflation cools down, maybe geopolitical uncertainty come down, and interest rate revision sees a trend reversal from increasing to decreasing, I think the funding winter will also be over. But this is a great time to either build company or great products or improve the inherent fundamental potential of your business. Next question comes from Shrishti from Uttar Pradesh, and she's asking this question through Zoom. How can new budding entrepreneurs look to raise funds in this challenging environment? Shrishti, this is a great question. Let me say there are various ways in general how you can fund a business. One is you can use your own personal savings. You can use savings of your parent or your family. You can tap into friends and family. You can go to angel investors who may not be financial investors but like to support a lot of ideas, energy, and passion of youth. You can go to early stage VC. You can go to mid stage VC. You can go to late stage VC or private equity fund, and eventually you can go public, right? These are the various funding options available. There are some innovative funding options available. For example, you can take an office on rent from someone and defer the rent for 1 year. You can borrow laptops for your team, which is growing, but you don't need to pay for the laptops, right? You can actually take advances from your customer who are willing to give you advances, and that can also become source of funding. And if you can make more than what you spend, that is the biggest source and the most organic source of funding. So this is what it is. But right now, my suggestion would be, if you can do a good job of managing your expectation in terms of valuation, quantum of fund, and time it will take, and do not take any rejections or failures. Personally, it's a great time to build early stage company, and especially reach out to early stage venture capital firm, some accelerator. And when I started Shop Clues India had probably half dozen angel investors. I think including India has maybe 25,000 angel investors. And just to give you a sense, I have invested in more companies in last 18 months than the first like 9 years in India of my stay. So these are the ways, but you have to be very, very innovative, and keep in mind good market or bad market, but at least for one team member, fundraising fund is almost like a full-time job. Next question comes from Tanmay from Thane, and he's asking this question via Facebook. The question is, any particular industry or sector that is affected by the funding winter? Tanmay, I would say that from the story, it goes like this. In 2008, there was a financial meltdown in US that caused significant meltdown across global economies and sectors, and especially technology. But after remaining lackluster until 2010, every sector started rebounding and regrowing. And until December 2021, we saw 11 years of rally, which was broad-based, but especially for technology sector. I have spent 26 years of my life in technology sector. I was a former Wall Street analyst. I've never seen this robust, strong, and prolonged rally, right? So I would say the new age companies in general are under stress, right? E-commerce is more under stress because it can be very scalable. It has created the highest amount of value on the face of the planet after the advertising technologies. But or companies like software or SaaS companies like Apple or Microsoft. But unit economics takes time to establish, right? Then any companies which was basically has a very unfavorable unit economics. Some sectors which became all of a sudden extremely hot, but may not be necessarily always that hotness is sustainable. Like for example, edutech or edutech, right? Fintech has its own struggle, especially in Western Europe and US. There are multiple fintech companies who have significantly come down from their peak value. Within automobile, not a business model like Droom, which is pure play e-commerce, asset light, technology heavy, but people who have physical branded dealership, their own inventory, and they take a lot of pride in refurbishing, cleaning, buffing, polishing cars on their own. That model has completely creeped, right? So, one is it is broad based. Second is it is some of the sectors which inherently take longer to be profitable, it is harsher. Some of the sectors which were never going to be profitable, it is much, much harsher. And some sectors which were disproportionately hotter during COVID and they cannot sustain that are now coming under attack, right? But in my view, I don't want to make future prediction in this very choppy, highly volatile market, but this will come back, right? So, but right now it is much broad based. Some of the sectors I called out specifically, which are more in under stress. Next question comes from Yash from Bombay, and he's asking this question from Zoom. How are VCs, angel investors, approaching this crisis? I'm very fortunate to share good relationship, good bonding, and a long duration of friendship with lot of entrepreneurs, venture capital firms, public market investors, and a peer group of mine who have built companies. And honestly, nobody has a magic wand right now. Nobody has a crystal ball, and everyone is very leery. People, the VCs or investors who were always very conservative, perhaps having slightly better time. People who were more aggressive, doing more introspection. In general, there's never a shortage of capital, but nobody likes to invest and know that the next round is happening at a lower valuation. Nobody likes to invest in a company which may go belly up, right? Nobody would like to invest when it will be very difficult to establish the fair value, right? So so a lot of people are waiting and watching. Some people are doing a cherry pick, right? Many of my friends who have grown phenomenal business through M&A are cherry picking right now, right? Some of the VCs who were always conservative, they are looking more attractive, and some of the VCs who were more aggressive are little bit more cautious, right? So that is how it is. I'm sorry if I'm not very clear about my answer, but it is right now nobody can gauge the future, and everyone is in a bit of wait and watch. Because if you look at the last 14 months, lot of time we had a false alarm that maybe market has bottomed out, maybe this stock is already 70% down, how much more it can go, right? Even at a 90%, people thought for certain stocks that how much more it can go down, but it did go down even more after that. So so I think it's market will remain choppy, highly volatile, and under stress. So you need to navigate accordingly. Next question comes from Preeti from Madhya Pradesh through Instagram. The question is, any particular incident that you would like to share with us from fundraising days? Sure, Preeti, thank you for asking this question. So I had a lot of as I mentioned, I did 17 round of capital, around 6 to 650 million in Shopcluse and Droom. And let me say this way, when I was starting Shopcluse, I was a Wall Street analyst. I was top ranked. I was based out of Silicon Valley. And I wanted to start Shopcluse because my view was that unlike that time, every e-commerce company which was inventory-led model, India need a marketplace which can be very scalable, very asset-light, and create huge value. And you can see now every e-commerce company is a marketplace, right? But that was not the case. I was a first marketplace in India. So when I wrote down the business plan for Shopcluse, I was immediately able to attract around 1.4 million from 15 of my friends or Wall Street clients who liked the passion, who liked me, and who knew me well. Then a very famous VC told me that I will give you, Sandeep, you are a famous Wall Street analyst. We like Shopcluse ideas. I'll give you several million. Why do you only want to raise 1.5? We'll give you 5 million and much higher valuation, but you take money from us. In a hindsight, I actually made one mistake. I should have closed that 1.5 million round anyway, which I did not. I waited for 4 months. They gave me offer letter and bragged about it a lot. But later on, somehow they came to know that Amazon was going to launch in India, and they pulled the offer. That time, me and my other team members who moved with me to join me at Shopcluse all had left their jobs, all had sold their household stuff, and remaining household was already packed in a container which was going to come in a ship to India. And that is when we realized that we have no money. So and then on the way, lot of other times, If if I have done 17 round and let's say 100 investors total invested in me, I would say probably 800 have rejected me, right? But I would say out of 800, 700 rejections are in Droom, and that had a more to do, that had nothing to do with Droom or my passion or energy. It was something to do with my legacy personal crisis. So, but rejection is very much part and parcel. But also, just sorry, one more thing very quickly. When I got the first proper venture capital money at Shoploose, 31 well-known, well-regarded VCs had all rejected me. They did not believe that marketplace will work in India, and they did not believe that I will move after raising money to India from Silicon Valley. So, let's go to the next question. Next question comes from Apeksha from Jaipur, and she's asking this question via Facebook. A lot is being said that tech startup easily acquire funds compared to other sector. Is that true? Apeksha, that is always true. From IBM getting invented in, I believe, around 1906 to Microsoft and Apple emerging in mid 70s, to internet companies including Yahoo, AOL, to Google, Uber, Airbnb, and whatnot. Absolutely, technology sector in a given same market condition will able to attract capital more. The reason is technology sectors, there are 3-4 assumptions. Technology sectors inherently can have much higher scale versus the sectors which rely on infrastructure, people, or physical places. Second is the technology sectors, the inherent assumption is they can have gross margin as high as 70 to 90%. Third is the technology sector in general create more strong competitive moats over time, right? And then they create higher value because of some of the reasons I already highlighted. So answer is yes, that is true, but last 13 months, when the technology environment has become, the funding environment has become more stressed, technology is taking the highest amount of beating. Next question comes from Ronak from NCR through Zoom. Question is, will this funding winter impact hiring as well? Absolutely, Ronak, very relevant question. We are already seeing, I think Indian founders or Indian companies or Indian employees were not so used to seeing the cycles of ups and down. I joined my first job out of business school at Schwab.com literally 5 days after 9/11, and .com bust has already happened. I have seen, including my company, literally 60 to 80% workforce was asked to leave, right? So I have seen these kind of things in best in breed companies. I think Indian founders, Indian employees, team members were much hesitant when this very acute, severe cycle hit us around 13, 14 months back. And I think you can see companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Google, they have hundreds of billion cash. Even from the interest income of that cash, they can probably give employment to 500,000 more people. They have still fired, tens of thousand people, and they are not done, right? So obviously, startups, when they grow, they create a higher economic multiplier, and they create a lot of direct and indirect jobs. But when they contract, it could be very painful, and unfortunately, that's what we are going for. So hunting environment is absolutely challenging, and I don't see any respite, at least for the next several quarters to come. Next question again comes from Ronak in NCR. Almost 90% of startup failing in our country. What, according to you, should be the strategy for new and upcoming entrepreneurs? Ronak, great question. Absolutely. I think, by the way, if you look at the empirical evidences of last 40 years, the startup mortality rate is absolutely, I think, more, I would even say 98% startup may not be immediately, but sooner or later will fail, right? 2% of the startup who will survive, maybe 90% will never see a day more than 10 to 50 million value, right? Remaining 10% who see cross that, probably only 10% of those 10% perhaps will cross 100 million value, and then maybe another 10% of that 10 to 10% will see a day for a unicorn level. right? So this is a very, it's a very, very risky choice of career, right? And right now, as I mentioned towards my opening remark, right, staying frugal, measuring everything, having unit economics responsible, raising capital, constantly raising capital, building product which is less dependent on capital, having a plan which delivers profitability from first quarter to first year. All those things will help you. Or if you are, if you and your colleagues are building a startup, you're still maybe in a college or school, university, and you don't depend on capital, then it's a great time to build and build a product and service so beautiful that by the time funding winter is over, you can actually have your pitch ready, right? So those are the ways I would say that some of the tips. Next question comes from Harshit from Madhya Pradesh, asking this question through Instagram. In the process of launching a business, what strategies can be employed to identify a distinctive factor that is pertinent to the expansion of enterprise and sets it apart from the competition? Harshit, happy to have a longer discussion. You can send an email at sandeep@sandeepaggarwal.com. But the short answer is, don't create Me Too company. Create a company which is based on long-term vision or passion. It is differentiated, technology center of everything. With the time passing, it has a network effects, better economics, larger impact, and you keep on investing in the areas which gives you unique selling proposition or strengthen your competitive moats, right? And you have growth hacking strategies. You can grow faster than your peer group. You have a brand which is more loved than the comparable products in the same category. All those can help you. It's no different than how one country would win in a war, how one actor will have more movies and get paid higher. Similarly, startup, you really need to be extremely strategic in terms of differentiation, modes, scale, growth, access to capital, and great talent, and above all, I would say, great culture. A lot of time, people, different gender, different age, different education, people may come, but if you have an awesome culture, history has shown time and again, small group of highly determined people can achieve impossible things. Next question comes from Khyati from Mumbai through Facebook, and the question is, qualities which investors look for in an entrepreneur. I would say by the time someone decide to become a professional entrepreneur, they actually have really, in my view, excelled the whole investment theories or investment philosophies, and even better job than a normal person for people and entrepreneur. But typically, if I generalize my experience, I think, or if I look at me as an angel investor, I think for me, biggest thing which stand out is a passion. If you are passionate, you will be able to withstand a lot of ups and downs. Second one is a long-term approach. Third one is resilience. Fourth one is data centricity. Fifth one is strategic thinking. Sixth one, I would say, is ability to team up people, attract people, and charm and chemistry, right? Another one is salesmanship. Does not matter, you code, you create processes, you run marketing program, but you need to be able to sell, and the biggest thing you sell is your idea, vision, to partner with people, to partner with partners and vendors, and to partner with investors for money. So, right, and then if you have a mindset of you don't take no for an answer, you have a high conviction, high confidence, strong body language, you are very detail oriented, all these things can tremendously help. And investors, believe me, investors do notice all of these things, even if they may not ask. Next question come from Hemant through Instagram. Question is, guys, before I read this question, just wanted to mention we have 15 minutes more left, and I'll try to take as many questions as possible. I'll also will try to go slightly faster and keep my answer also slightly shorter. So question is, Hemant, okay, I think Sorry, I think there's a question live from Zoom, and how about we change, right, I have next question on my screen, but let's take the question from Zoom. So if the team Droom can unmute the audience.
Hi, Hemant, you can
Hi,
speak now.
Hemant, you can speak now. Hi, Hemant Ralhan, your line is open. So if you want to ask a question, please go ahead. Okay, I think Hemant, if you want to ask the question, maybe you can re-queue in. And but is there anyone else who wants to ask a question on Zoom?
Hi, Apeksha, you can speak now.
Apeksha, you are on a mute, but your line is open. You can ask the question. So, yeah, go ahead, Apeksha.
So actually,
Hi, Apeksha, you again are on mute. If you are there, please ask question.
can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
My question was actually, a lot is being said that tech startups easily acquire funds compared to other sectors. Is it true?
Yes, Apeksha, I think we did address this question. Absolutely. As I mentioned, the startups which tend to use technology, startups which are for first generation, who take a more contemporary and modern approach, who can create scale, who can be eventually long term own a category or disrupting something which is a large addressable opportunity. It's not only the startup inherently are very risky, but the startup which have these characteristics absolutely will have more promising opportunity to raise more capital and sooner. Okay, so thank you, Apeksha, for asking this question, guys. In interest of time, we will maybe after 5 minutes, if you want to ask live question, please queue up in Zoom. But meanwhile, I'll take maybe 2 more questions through Instagram. So the question is from Hemant on Instagram, that as you mentioned that challenges you faced during the fundraising rounds of Droom, how were you so sure about the vision of the company and motivated to continue with it anyway? Hemant, thank you for asking this question. Of course, very close to my heart. So thing is, why I did Droom was because when I started Droom, India was the 5th largest automobile market in the world. 2 months back, it became 3rd largest, or 2 or 3 years back, it became 4th largest, right? So it was, when I started, it was around $200 billion market. It's around 250 billion now, right? I wanted to use technology to disrupt the automobile market, because I did not think that just opening physical branded dealership brainlessly, or having tens of thousand cars sitting in your parking lot, or a cinema theaters parking, or a shopping mall parkings, and cleaning, buffing, polishing as a corporate centralized model can create value, right? So that was my inherent faith that India will go from 5th largest market to maybe 2nd in long run. India will go from 67th, in spite of 5th largest automobile market 8 years back. It was 67th in terms of per capita GDP, per capita automobile availability, but it will go to maybe in the top 10, right? So one is a market size. Second is the choice of the business model I came up with, which was asset light, technology heavy, no inventory, and everything we managed through, and we harness the distributed ecosystem of small mom and pop auto dealers. I was very, very confident. I was ready to bet anything on the way. Yes, for the achievement, for the scale, unit economics disruption we created, we never got 200 million, 500 million, $1 billion, because of the reason I cited earlier. And then once my legal case, which almost served as a cloud or eclipse my entrepreneurial journey, by the time it got dismissed and dropped, and there was no longer glass ceiling, COVID happened, right? So absolutely, but you know, I had a long-term vision, I had a strong sense of conviction, and I was ready to bet anything I got. But thank you for asking that question. Next question comes from Nirmala at Instagram. Question is, how much do you think are shows like Shark Tank contributing in today's startup culture? Is it really helpful or boost business? See, in my view, you know, Shark Tank has obviously almost has brought a cultural shift in our country. The two seasons have ended, and in an entrepreneurial, especially in a startup entrepreneurial circle, I think most people watch it. There's a lot of to learn. They are making a discipline which was limited to few people available to masses, right? So right they so you know, I think how to pitch, you know, elevator pitch, how to get attention, how to questions, what do investors think, what do investors ask, then even seeing various phenomenal products and services people who come on Shark Tank are building is very fascinating, right? I remember doing this way back when India's ecosystem, entrepreneurial system was much younger. So I don't know, many of you may recall, or right, I came on MTV Dropout. This was run by MTV Roadies famous anchors Raghu and Rajiv. I, along with two of my favorite founders, came as a judges, and we did this way back in 2017. And the idea was that next 10 years, entrepreneurial revolution in India will only rise. Why don't we create a content which can inspire them, motivate them, and give them more better grip on how to navigate in this choice of career. So it is, and so I, you know, living in Silicon Valley, I was always a big fan of Shark Tank. So those are the good things. My only advice, 2-3 things would be that please note that Shark Tank is absolutely a great platform, but your journey may last for several decades. Always take a long-term approach. Money from Shark is very special, which also comes with great support. I like all the sharks very well, but you also need to make sure you have access to various pools of capital and far more amount of capital versus what a typical shark can give it to you. So always, and also independent of capital, one thing which you will absolutely, if I just think like an entrepreneur and as a growth hacker, one thing you will definitely get from Shark Tank, in my view, and by no means I'm a spokesperson or related to Shark Tank in any manner, but one thing you'll get just sitting as an outside observer is a free marketing, right? I mean, a lot of time I see a lot of pitch where people say I came to Shark Tank in season 1, or I'm coming to Shark Tank 2 weeks from now, or in their decks Shark Tank is mentioned. So take it as one of the good platform. You should absolutely pat your back if you make it there. See it as a marketing opportunity, but this is not the only source of capital, and this cannot be the only capital you need to build a world-class company. Okay, guys, I'll take one more question, and then maybe we can take a question. So I'm going to take maybe one question on which I'm going to read out, and then last 2-3 questions. Looks like on Zoom there are multiple requests, so we will take last 2-3 questions on Zoom. So the question is from Arushi, and the question is, as far as we are seeing saturation in tech business, what should we do beat that saturation? Exponential growth is difficult. Actually, Arushi, I beg to differ from you. I don't think there's a saturation in tech. In fact, in a country like India, the technology penetration is very low. If you look at travel or jobs, these markets are 80% online. But if you look at automobile, one which such I build is only 1.2% online. And if you look at fashion like clothing, shoes and accessories, and I'm talking about only e-commerce, let's say 10% is online, right? Category by category, if you think about it, India has been decades behind technology. Even country like Japan or China or USA can absolutely, the only way to grow faster than the natural growth is really keep on inventing, keep on disrupting with the use of technology, right? Exponential growth can come if you wear a growth hacking hat, if you have a product and offering which is world class and you do your work cheaper, faster, better than anyone else, or you are able to deploy a lot of capital from VC who has asking you to grow at faster than any other thing you have ever seen, right? These are the three top reasons how you can have a exponential growth. If you are not seeing that, you probably lack in one of the three or maybe other reason, but there's no sign of saturation in capital. It's just a bad market where funding environment is become challenging. Okay guys, with that, we will see if there's less number of question on Zoom, and or if we experience any technology problem, we will come back because we have a longer list of questions here. But let's maybe, if I can ask team Droom to take next question live from Zoom. Upasna, you can unmute and ask.
Good evening, sir. Since you have worked for 2 startups and they have been very successful, so what is the key mantra that you want to share for the new budding entrepreneurs?
Absolutely, Upasna. Thank you for asking this question. So I think, Upasna, number one would be please do something which you are passionate about, because it's a cliche, but it's always true that if you're passionate, you no longer work, right? Second is take a long-term approach. Third is never underestimate the need of capital. Fourth is nothing can be won by a one-man army. So always create a team of people around you. The other thing I would say is that build product and technology which you like to consume yourself and like to offer to the world and feel proud of it. Always believe in a power of prototype. You may start somewhere, a minimum viable service or product, and with a power of prototype make it better, right? And always be frugal. And if you take outside capital, remember that capital has to grow and you have to return it, and it's the most responsible capital you will take, right? And then if you have these kind of characteristics, rain or shine, eventually you will prevail. And then entrepreneurship is a real test of conviction, so don't give up that quickly, and don't take no for an answer, and keep your goal intact in your head, in your heart, and you will achieve your goals.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pasna. Guys, can we take another question from Zoom? Aman Rawat, your line is open. You can ask a question.
Hello, sir. Thanks a lot for such an insightful session. I'm Aman. I come from an engineering background, and I have spent my 4 years of career in building an influencer marketing company in creators economy, which I have scaled to approximately $2 million ARR. Now I am starting my new venture called Fame. My question to you would be like, in a industry like creators economy, where there is so much of traction and everyone is so optimistic about it. It is a lot similar to gaming, let's suppose, or music, where there is so much of audience. But at the same time, monetization we all know is a bit harder and is a longer way. So what do you think about it? When technologies come into the player and you have to build a tool, what do you think, right? How should be the approach? Whether it should be more of getting more audience or engagement, or getting more monetization?
Yeah. So Aman, first of all, thank you for asking question and congratulations on your achievement. 2 million ARR is not a joke. It's a great achievement. So really great best wishes to you for achieving such a great milestone. Based on your nature of question, looks like your next venture you're thinking is on a gaming side. I think gaming, like creator economy, like influencer marketing, gaming has always been around in India, but I think it is going to be a next very big frontier, from fantasy sports to the attraction we saw with PUBG and many other things, to how from Roblox to many other Minecraft and so on. It's a never-ending thing. I remember 25 years back when I moved to US. That time the reports would get published that one day gaming would be bigger than Hollywood, and Hollywood be that time 10 billion, right? And long back gaming became more than 100 billion industry, right? But given what is a market and what you are doing, and given you did a very high margin business called influencer marketing and creator economy, I would say I have no doubt that you will create attraction and fan following for that gaming product of yours, but try to incorporate good hygiene and discipline for monetization from day one, right? With your background, I'm hoping funding will be smooth sailing for you, but never take it for granted. But try to sound more responsible in your pitch from day one on a gaming side, even if you are not profitable, and you don't need to be profitable day one, but clear path to profitability and monetization, which is very logical and looks like achievable, will create a great outcome for you. And by the way, if you are building something new, would love to speak with you. You can ping me at sandeep@sandeepaggarwal.com.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you for your advice. I have already mailed you, but I'll send the mail again.
Absolutely. Aman, I will absolutely reach out
I
to you.
saw your list that you are interested in giving.
That's right.
That you said bullish and bearish list. That
Right.
was very interesting, sir.
Absolutely. Aman, good luck and looking forward to catching up with you. Guys, because of that time, I would love to, I absolutely enjoy, I can go for next 5 hours, but we need to wrap up. So we will take last question. And I think if there's a question on Zoom, we can take that. Hi Ashish, your line is open. You can ask the question.
Yeah, hi sir. My name is Ashish and I'm a big fan of yours. Whatever you have done in the past, that is fabulous. And as you told, I followed you from 2017's MTV Dropout. So
Thank you.
that's great for me. And actually, sir, I'm running a startup from last 3 years, which name is IntelliCard, and we are totally bootstrapped. But now my question is, we are looking for funding. So what exactly the main thing which we have to keep in mind to pitch anything or to come in the scenario of funding?
Yeah. Ashish, thank you for all the kind words. Good to meet you. And again, like the previous speaker, happy to speak with you. And sometime I get more inbound messages. Sometime okay. I try to respond as many as I can. So if you can ping me at sandeep@sandeepaggarwal.com, we can have a detailed chat. But very quickly, for everyone's interest, I would say that whatever business you are doing, please make sure you have a team profile very nicely written and articulate why now, and how are you uniquely qualified to do that. Mention the team's like our market industry size and what part of the industry you are addressing. Mention very clearly about your product and offering. Highlight how are you different or better. If you have a financial model or future outlook, do include that. If the market has multiple players, try to show how are you different or what is the edge you have versus others. If you have raised any prior capital, any well-known person, investor is in your cap table, do highlight that. Show, exhibit your product or services in a demonstrable manner, right? Right, if you want to articulate your vision or mission. All these other, I would say 10-12 things minimum at the minimum. And as I mentioned in one of the question previously, there are multiple sources of funding. If you are on an early stage, I would say accelerators or early stage VC fund or angel investors and friend and family money. These would be the 4 sources of capital for you, and I'm happy to speak to you. If I have an interest, I may also write a check. I can't promise, but I can promise is I can take a look at your startup, and wishing you all the best. Okay guys, so thank you so much for showing all your enthusiasm. There's clearly a challenging startup environment. It is nothing to do with saturation or a bubble which has busted. This is a challenging capital market. Financial costs have gone up. Inflation is very high. There's a macro uncertainty and geopolitical uncertainty, right? Like any other thing, something which goes up, come down. Something which goes down, goes up. Please see this as a cycle. Learning from current market situation is be frugal, be mindful, be very, very unit economics driven, be truthful, have a clear path to profitability, but never lose your long-term dream, right? And keep on building. This is a great time either to improve your fundamentals, cause disruption, or build new product, or solidify the quality and stability and robustness of your existing product and services. I wish all of you are very best. Our team will send the book which I authored a few years back about my entrepreneurial journey to the people who ask question. If you want to reach out to me for any advice, guidance, or pitching your startup, then you can send an email at sandeep@sandeepaggarwal.com, or you can reach out to me on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter. And as Crystal mentioned, this is something which we try to do every quarter. Sometimes we have done sooner than that, sometime later than that, but we try to do this 4 to 6 times a year. And if you want to see any topic, if your question was not addressed, please reach out to us. But really appreciate all your enthusiasm and response, and looking forward to chatting with you in the next live session. Thank you everyone, and I hope all of you survive, not only survive but thrive, and come out with the flying colors from this tight funding environment. But great time to build companies, and great time to build to cause disruption. Wishing you all the best.